Hey, early childhood education students, welcome to this week's topic in early childhood education, which is all about math learning in early childhood education. Let's dive in. First of all, we're going to do a quick student sharing. Shown here at the top are three emojis. I love it, I'm not so sure about it, and I hate it. Now let's look at what the questions are for these emojis. First question is, when ranking your favorite subjects in school, where does math rank? Remember, I love it over here. It's so-so in the middle, and I hate it on the far right. Second question, how important or unimportant do you think math is as a topic for children to learn about? First picture, I think they should definitely learn about it. Middle one, I'm not so sure about learning about it. Third one, I don't really think it's an important topic for young children to learn about. And then the final question, if you were a kindergarten teacher right now, how comfortable would you be with teaching math? I think I would do pretty well. I think I would know kind of some things to teach to children. I'm really not sure. I think I'd need to learn more, or gosh, I would feel very unprepared to teach kindergartners about math right now. So I wanted to start off this way so we could kind of think about math and our comfort or discomfort with math. I want to start off with just why learn math. Where are you on the need to learn math skills and concepts? Why learn math? I've found several reasons when I've done some online research for this. First reason is it helps with finances. So it helps you learn how to pay your bills, how to keep a budget, how to keep track of money, that sort of thing. A second idea I read about is math helps you be a better cook. So when you're cooking, it is all to do with temperatures and timing and measurements and half cup and quarter cup and that kind of thing. So math helps you to be a better cook. Helps with problem solving skills and reasoning. Just a general ability to problem solve and reason involves math in your brain. Another reason I found was that practically every career uses math in some way. So that's something for you to think about. Think about different careers that you might be interested and think about how they might use math in that career. Helps you shop for a good sale. I know when I'm out shopping and I see 30% off, I want to do the math in my head to figure out just how much I'm going to be paying for that item that is 30% off. So good math skills help you to do good brain math to figure out what a sale is all about. Helps you know how much to tip at a restaurant. If you have great service and you want to do a 20% tip or a 10% tip or 15%, whatever tip you want to give, when you can do math in your head or know how to do math on a calculator on your phone, it helps you know how much tip to leave for your server at the restaurant. Another thing about math, it's really a universal language. Every nation, every culture uses math in pretty much the similar ways. Math is also important in many academic subjects, so having a good math background helps you in bio and chem and physics, in statistics, in all kinds of different academic subjects. Another thing that I read is that math builds upon itself. Having foundational knowledge and skills are essential for success in math class and related subjects. So when young children are young and they start building a foundation of math understanding, they're going to build upon this in kindergarten, first grade, second grade, sixth grade, seventh grade, freshman year, junior year, and so on. So math builds upon itself. So these were some reasons that I found online for why learn math. I also am sharing with you some of the articles that I read when I was doing research about the importance of math in learning for young children. So you are welcome to click on these if you want to learn more about the importance of learning math. Next place I want to go to in this teaching is to look at math standards. Math standards are really math concepts that children typically learn in pre-K through third grade. So since this is an early childhood class, I want to focus on pre-K through third grade and just what do we want kids to be learning at those ages? Major math concepts that kids learn in pre-kindergarten and kindergarten include counting, addition and subtraction, measurement and data, and geometry. And I gathered this information from a website called Scholastic Parents. So that is a clickable link if you want to learn more. But right now we're going to pursue counting, addition, subtraction, measurement, data, and geometry and learn more about them. First of all, we're going to look at counting. What is counting? I think everybody here knows what counting is, but students are beginning their experience with numbers through counting, number names, and written numerals. So this is kind of the basic of math. Learning through counting, learning number names, and learning to recognize written numerals. Students are learning to count objects and understand one-to-one correspondence. For everything that we touch, we count 1, then we touch the next thing 2, touch the next thing 3. That's what one-to-one correspondence is. Students are also learning, they're also starting to compare different sets of objects and use appropriate language, such as larger, smaller, greater, less than, and so forth. With regards to counting, what do we want to encourage children to do? We want to encourage them to touch different objects and count out loud. Very important that kids do this as they're learning one-to-one correspondence. Very early with counting, kids might touch and say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as they're touching just one object. So when they learn one-to-one, they learn to say one number for each object that they touch. They also learn to move objects from one group to another. We also want to encourage children to count a set of objects and see the number that corresponds with that number or write that corresponding number. So various things we want to encourage children to do with regards to counting in kindergarten and pre-kindergarten. We also want to encourage children to start using comparison words such as more than, less than, the same as, etc. Next, we're going to look a little bit at addition and subtraction. This is a very early stage of adding and subtracting. Adding and subtracting, kids really get mastery of this when they're kind of late in kindergarten and entering first grade, but they can start learning about it in pre-K and in kindergarten. The focus should be on developing an understanding of addition as putting together and adding to, and subtracting as taking apart and taking from. So again, addition is putting together and adding to, and subtracting is taking apart and taking from. Students do not need to write equations at this young age, but they're encouraged to begin using them and thinking about adding using a plus sign and subtracting using a minus sign. Regarding addition and subtraction, we would encourage children to tell stories about adding and subtracting. A couple examples would be, in addition, we might tell the story, 2 bunnies sat on the grass. 3 more bunnies hopped there. How many bunnies are in the grass now? And since this is a very abstract concept, we would want to make this concrete by using little buddy counters to show what it looks like to have 2 originally, 3 more coming, and then 5 altogether. An example with subtraction, 5 apples were on the table. I ate 2 apples. How many apples are on the table now? So we could either use apples to illustrate this, or we could draw pictures about putting together and taking apart. Yet another thing that we could encourage kids to do is to count to 10 and break numbers, or decompose the numbers, which is the fancy word for breaking apart. Let me illustrate this here. So pictured here are Unifix cubes. We have 10 different Unifix cubes, and for this example, we put 5 of them together, 2 green and 3 orange. Kids can learn that 5 plus 0 equals 5. So I have 5, I add nothing, and I still have 5. Or I could take 4 Unifix cubes together, I could hook one onto it, and I have 5. I could also show them how 3 Unifix cubes plus 2 more Unifix cubes equal 5. So as you see here, I'm showing different ways that we can get to 5 by adding numbers together. And I'm using concrete objects to illustrate this very abstract concept of adding things together. The next key area for kids to learn in pre-K and kindergarten is about measurement and data. Young children are beginning to describe and compare their physical world. They're starting to classify objects. They're starting to sort and group objects into different categories. At this point, we want to compare two different objects using appropriate language. For example, a comparison of height. John is taller than Sarah. Another comparison of height. This tree is shorter than that tree. This one is a comparison of weight. My bag is heavier than your bag. So we're comparing two different objects using appropriate language of taller, shorter, or heavier, lighter. Another big thing that kids do with measurement data is they sort objects. They sort by attributes such as color, size, the material they're made of, etc. Another thing that we would encourage kids to do is describe their physical world with directional words such as in front of, behind, on top of, next to, below, etc. So these descriptors are things that kids need to learn, and they're going to learn them when using concrete physical objects. The last of the four big concepts that we want kids to learn in pre-kindergarten and kindergarten focus on geometry. Students are starting to look at and compare two-dimensional shapes, which are flat, such as a square, and three-dimensional solid shapes, such as a cube. They're using appropriate language to recognize different shapes and to talk about their attributes. With regards to geometry, we want to encourage children to find 2D shapes in the world. 2D shapes would include things such as squares, circles, triangles, rectangles, hexagons, etc. And we also want to find 3D shapes in the world, such as cubes, cones, cylinders, and spheres. When we're talking about things, we can count the number of sides they have, count the number of vertices that they have, count the angles that they have, etc. So these are some big words that we're helping children to learn through concrete experiences. Another thing that we can do with geometry is we can model making shapes using clay, sticks, pipe cleaners, etc. So we can take these things and mold them or fold them into different geometric shapes in both 3D and 2D. The emphasis that I just placed was on what we want kids to learn pre-kindergarten, before they go to kindergarten, as well as during kindergarten. Since we have some people in our class that are also interested in first grade, second grade, and third grade, I have also included in this presentation kind of the key concepts that are to be learned in each of those three grades. It is impossible to read these things, so each of these are a clickable icon that you can click and go to and learn more about those things should you want to. So we just spent a few minutes learning the things that kids should learn in our classrooms. Now I want to focus on some hands-on approaches to promoting math learning in early childhood classrooms. First one, we're going to use math manipulatives. Children learn while engaging in play using a variety of math manipulatives. We spent some time earlier this semester just learning about manipulatives in general. Now our focus is going to be math manipulatives that help kids learn math through hands-on experiences. Pictured here are some manipulatives for learning addition, that concept that we just spoke of. So pictured in the top, they have taken two of these little pegs in blue and added 8 pegs in purple, and then they can count these to learn hands-on what 2 plus 8 equals. Also, we see 4 plus 3, and then there are other trays that they're going to snap these little pegs into, kind of like golf tees, so they can learn in a concrete way about adding objects together. Next math manipulative is a sorting one. As we talked about, sorting is something that we want to do in the data area. So here they're sorting the elephants by size. There's small, medium, and large. They could also use one of these other trays to sort by color. They could count the elephants. They could do patterning of the elephants. So a great way for kids to learn through hands-on experience using this math manipulative. Another math manipulative shown here is a tub of geometric shapes. So we could learn the different names of these things. I see a cone, I see a pyramid, I see a sphere, I see a cylinder, I believe it to be a cube. I would even have to look up some of these geometric names to learn them and be able to talk to children about them. Another math manipulative shown here are different magnetic shapes that the kids could have a great time building interesting things. But as they're building, I, as their teacher, would be very intentional about talking about there's a rhombus, there's a trapezoid, there's a hexagon, etc. So we can help kids learn important mathematical things while they're playing and while we're being intentional as their teachers. Next one shown here is another way for kids to learn about math. And pictured here are some houses with different numbers of windows on them. And the kids could take a couple different things and put it together to come up with a number of the number on the top of the house. For example, the purple 10, they've done 5 windows and 5 windows to come up with 10. But they could also learn that 2 windows and 8 windows comes to 10 as well. So as kids are having these hands-on experiences, they're learning that different numbers can add together to come to the same product. Another thing pictured here, just a very simple sorting board, could be used with very young children. And when you're using this, you're also learning about pentagon and circle and oval and cross and star, triangle, etc. So kids are learning the names to describe the different shapes that they will experience in their world. Time is a math concept. Shown here are some different timers, sand timers. So I see 30 seconds, 1 minute, 60 seconds, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. So they can learn and start to appreciate what time is. Time is a very abstract concept. This was a cool manipulative I found, and pictured here are some cars and some little people. And the children are going to put 9 people in the car for 9. And as you can see, there are little holes in there that the pegs go in, that the little people go in. So when the car has 9 in it, it's full. And pictured there on the front hood is the numeral 9, and written on the side door is the word 9. So a cool way to learn about math. Pictured here are some magnetic dominoes, and the children can put the dominoes together, putting a 4 by a 4, a 5 by a 5, 3 by a 3, etc. So they can build with dominoes, all the while counting those little dots to figure out what goes where. This is a counting tray. The numerals are all shown from 1 up to 30, and kids can put 1 on there, 2 on there, 3 on there, and they can go all the way up to 30. So they're learning to count to 30 while having fun putting the bears in the little bear rooms. So before I move on to the next area, I want to say that all of that math learning took place by kids having fun, by kids engaging with manipulatives that are designed to help kids to learn. They're also learning because there's a talented teacher sitting next to them, helping them learn, giving them the words, and asking them important questions as they're going through it. Nowhere did I picture a worksheet for learning, because a worksheet takes the fun out of learning, and a worksheet is a very abstract thing versus actually touching and moving and counting things. So the next thing I have, way that kids learn math skills, is they use math every day, all day throughout the curriculum. So math isn't a subject, it isn't a class that you go to learn math. You're going to learn math throughout the day in a typical early childhood classroom. So a few examples are shown here. First example are books. I've put 6 books on here. 5 little monkeys jumping on the bed. So as you're reading this book to kids, you're counting. They're counting along with you. Next book, 10 Black Dots, is a cool, very simple picture book where you're counting. Color Zoo is one that has colors and shapes. Perfect Square is a book about squares. 10 Little Ladybugs, a really cool 3-dimensional book where kids can touch the ladybugs as you're reading it with them and they can count it. And finally, Mouse Shapes is pictured there, which is a neat book about shapes. Children can learn math through large motor activities. So pictured here on the left are kind of some cool little stepping stones that you could put out. They have numerals on them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So as a child is moving, you as a teacher can be counting. Oh, you stepped on 1, you stepped on 2, you stepped on 3, keep going, what's next? You're going to step on 4. Pictured in the middle is kind of a beanbag toss game where they're going to toss a beanbag and knock down different numerals. So you as a skilled teacher are with them, helping them to learn those numbers while they are exercising and having fun. And then pictured on the far right is a hopscotch game. I'm sure we all have played hopscotch in our lives, but this is a great way for kids to learn colors and numbers and exercise at the same time. Pictured here are the names of some songs that we commonly sing with children. We sing 5 Little Ducks, we sing 10 in the Bed, we sing 5 little monkeys jumping on the bed and one fell off and bumped its head. So as you're teaching these things, you're teaching addition, you're teaching a subtraction, you're teaching counting, etc. So math learning happens all day long. Pictured here are some other things. The one on the upper left is supposed to represent taking a walk. We used to take walks on campus, and whenever we would take a walk on campus, we would count the children before we left. We would count the children as we were going. So we would count the children a lot. And from doing this, kids learn. They learn that every time we touch a kid's head, we're saying the number 1, we're saying the number 2, so on. So they're learning by watching us count real kids. Sometimes when we would take those walks, we would look for street signs. We would look for all kinds of different signs, but when we look at street signs, when we see a stop sign, we would count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sides and say, ah, that is an octagon. We would notice diamonds, we would notice squares and rectangles, and talk about those shapes as we see them. Pictured in the upper right, I couldn't find a very great picture for this one, but this is meant to be a child setting a table. Kids can help us set the table. They can put out 4 napkins at this table, 4 forks at this table, 4 cups at this table, 4 plates at this table. They're learning how to count. They're learning one-to-one correspondence. Pictured in the lower left are some kids doing a cooking experience. When you cook with children, you're learning about math. You're learning to count 2 eggs go into this. You're learning to count a half a cup goes into this. So you're learning different units of measurement and you're counting. And then pictured in the lower right is a child simply putting toys away. When they're doing this activity, they're sorting the different things by what they are. So they're learning to pay visual discrimination to know which toy goes in which spot on the shelf. So those are some ways that kids learn through everyday tasks. Another way that kids can learn math is through by teachers creating and using teacher-made math games. So children learn about math while they're using hands-on math games that teachers like you can make for students. Pictured here was a cute, real basic one. It's a little caterpillar. One caterpillar has one little thing for you to put a pom-pom. Another has two, three, four, and five. So a real basic kind of thing, but a fun thing that a teacher can make either by hand drawing or using a computer to make a game for kids to play. I thought this was a neat one with some pipe cleaners and some little beads. So the one has a 1 on it, so you would slide one bead on. One has a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so forth. So this is not only a good counting thing, but it's a good fine motor activity as you're working to lace that bead on to the pipe cleaner. So that was a cool kind of game I saw. Counting mats. So this one has some pom-pom balls again with some little tweezers. So the child is counting one, seeing the numeral one, putting one pom-pom in the circle, and so forth. So a very hands-on counting kind of thing. They can also sort by colors as we see them doing here. And they're also developing fine muscle skills as they're using the tweezers. They could also be doing this with a peer and learning how to share and take turns. This was a neat teacher-made game that I came across, and I think it is a little bug jumping, perhaps a grasshopper, and the teacher made this and made a little line, and then you put the Unifix cubes in to figure out how high that bug jumped. So the one that is completed has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I believe, Unifix cubes. So this one jumped 6 cubes high. So a fun teacher-made game. This was another one, and this one has to do with adding, with using addition. So pictured here are some colored dominoes. The one on the left has 6 yellows and 3 reds. So they've put 6 and 3 together, and then they can add them to come up with 9. So just another real basic way where kids can learn math through concrete hands-on activities. Pictured here was another simple one, just some flowers, and again using pom-poms. So they've put the numeral on there, they've drawn some flowers on there, and then the kids can count the pom-poms to fill it up and get a good, solid, concrete idea of what counting is all about. So teacher made games. Oh, I have more. So this one I found some, looks like craft sticks, and they've put some magnets on there and some paper clips. So definitely have to make sure you're doing this with a kid who's not going to put the paper clips in their mouth because that would be a choking hazard. But a good way and a fun way for kids to learn about math, develop fine muscle skills as well. Another thing that I think this is what we're going to close on, is use intentional teaching. So I've used this word at various times in this presentation, intentional teaching. Children learn about math when teachers are intentional and mindful of helping children learn about math. So throughout the day when we're setting the table, I'm thinking, this is an opportunity for a child to learn some math. When we're playing with a certain manipulative, I think, this is a chance for a kid to learn about math. But the only way that's going to happen, or the best way that's going to happen, is if I help them to learn by using good language. So what is intentional teaching? Intentional teachers think to themselves, what can a child learn from hands-on experience they're involved in? What can they learn through what they're doing right now? Then the teacher thinks to themselves, what can I say or what can I do to help them learn from their hands-on experience? Teachers then engage with children by modeling, making comments, or asking questions. So a few examples here. Ah, I see a whole bunch of colors. What colors do you see? So I am just taking the materials in front of us and saying, this is a great opportunity to help kids learn colors and learn some different colors. I see gray in here. Gray is a color that we don't talk about that often. So how can I help kids learn by being intentional while playing with them? Here we see some kids constructed a really cool thing with these great big kind of Lego-y type blocks. I could say, I wonder how many red blocks you've used in building your house. So by me posing that, I'm kind of saying, hey kids, could you count how many red blocks you've used? And then they could do that for me. So I'm using intentional teaching to help them learn colors. I wonder how many steps it would take to get across the hopscotch rug. So they could say how many steps it would take. And as they step, we could count them and we could see how their prediction turned out. Or did they count the number of steps it would actually take them? And we could challenge them too. We could say, I wonder if you could get from one end to the other in only 5 steps. Kids love challenges like that. And then we could do it in only 4 steps and so forth. So a good way to help kids learn math concepts through intentional teaching. I see different geometric shapes. What shapes do you say? So I'm throwing in the $20 word geometric here to help them learn about geometry in the future. And I'm also asking them what shapes they see so they can name the shapes that they see. How can we figure out which dinosaur we have the most of? So got a whole bin of dinosaurs here. And by me asking that question, I'm kind of saying, hey, let's sort these dinosaurs into the different types. So we could get some mats out there, and we could sort the dinosaurs as we go through them, and then when we're finished sorting them, which is sorting, a very important skill, then we could count them to see which we have the most of. So if you're being an intentional teacher, you might use some of these sentence starters. How many? Which has? I see. I wonder. I noticed. So think of how you can start a sentence. And then some math words that we could use. More than, less than, taller, shorter, longer, shorter, heavier, lighter, big, little, before, after, under, over, next to, etc. So, to summarize what we have learned here, we talked at the beginning of why learn math, and we dove into some different ideas of why it's important for kids to learn math. Then we looked at math standards for pre-K through kindergarten. We identified 4 big areas such as counting, addition and subtraction, data and measurement, and geometry. We next looked at some different approaches for us as excellent teachers to teach math. We could use math manipulatives to help us teach math. We could focus on everyday learning experiences such as setting the table, taking a walk, reading a book, singing a song. We looked at how we as teachers could create some math games that would be fun for kids to play and also help them to learn math. And lastly, we talked about using intentional teaching strategies. And we want to use intentional teaching strategies not just to help kids learn math, but to help kids learn about everything. They learn when teachers are intentional and focus on helping kids to learn. At this point, we would have some questions and discussion to see what we have learned today. I thank you for watching this presentation and hope you have learned a lot about helping kids learn important math concepts. Thank you.